unit of the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and we offer all the short courses on behalf of the university. This webinar is in celebration of World Creativity and Innovation Day, WCID, on the 21st of April. Please note our house rules for today. Number one, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking to avoid background noise during the presentation. Number two, technical issues can be addressed in the chat box. And number three, you may raise or wave your hand to ask a question during the presentation. You can either unmute your mic to ask a question or type your question in the chat box. Lastly, have fun and always keep an open mind. I would like to now introduce you to our guest speaker for today, Dr. Jim Friedman. Jim Friedman is a Cincinnati, Ohio, USA native and a resident wordsmith and dream builder who may be best known for creating television shows and movies. He is also a serial creative entrepreneur. In addition to his broadcasting ventures, he has created national marketing campaigns, been granted multiple patents, written books, and recorded and performed music, as well as danced the hokey pokey at age 3 on a television children's show. He is the White Family Professor of Creativity and Entrepreneurship at Miami University and is a frequent speaker on the topic of creativity and personal branding. Friedman's consulting and coaching work centers on connecting creative and innovative thinking to entrepreneurship for campaigns and individuals across the country. He is also the chief steward for World Creativity and Innovation Week and World Creativity and Innovation Day. Welcome, Dr. Friedman, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Kosi. So thrilled to be joining you this morning, because over here in the United States, it's still dark. So it's wonderful to be here with you all. And I'm looking forward to a conversation. When they asked me to come here to speak, I was interested more in a conversation as opposed to just talking at you. The reason for that has a lot to do with the fact that most of us teach by talking at our classrooms. That's the usual way. That's the comfortable way. If I'm talking, then I know it's going to happen. And so I'm comfortable just sharing with you. I have been teaching at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, for the last 14 years. I teach only creativity, which I've often said is kind of like teaching kindergarten to college students. But one of the greatest things that I've had the pleasure of doing over the last 14 years is I created a course that now is required for all freshmen who come into Miami University business school. And it's an entrepreneurship course. It's a creativity course. But the professors call it, we're going to beat the high school out of you. Now, what this really means is what we've noticed, the students who come to any college come in with a certain mindset. And the mindset has very little to do with creativity. Now, my hope is that you all had a chance to see the opening video that the university shared that talks about how we are set for creativity from a very young age. I want to back up over some of that because it's really important. When we're born, we are at our most creative. Creativity has been studied for realistically the last 70 years or so. You know, medicine we've been studying for thousands of years, philosophy for thousands of years, mathematics for thousands of years, sciences for thousands of years. But the study of creativity has really only been going in earnest for the last maybe 70 years. And it all had to do with some of the things that happened in the Second World War. The theory was that fighter pilots got shot down or spies got captured based on their intellectual acuity. If you were smarter, you didn't get captured. If you were smarter, you didn't get shot down. So they decided to study this. And what they found was very much the opposite. Very much the opposite. What it really means is that the less intellectually gifted you were, the more you didn't get shot down, the more you didn't get captured, because the smart person, the person who knows what the book says, well, that person only knows what the book says. That person does what the book says, and if it doesn't work, they don't have a second right answer. And I'm going to say that a lot this morning. Second right answer. When we think about creativity, we think in terms of art making. If you can sing, if you can dance, if you can draw, if you can paint, if you can sew, if you can take pictures, you're creative. So when you go into the younger school and you say, who's creative? Oh, they'll raise their hand and they want to show you their artwork. And when you go into adults and you say, who's creative? Nah, I'm not really creative. I can't do those things. But we think of creativity in two ways. Number one, what we call expressive creativity. Expressive creativity, that's the art making. And then there's the more intellectual part, what we call inventive creativity. And that's second right answer creativity. And that's the way you think. And that's all based on the mindsets. So I'm going to set it up there. And I'm going to invite you to, and thank you, Mylene, want you all to turn your cameras on so that we can make this more of a conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Nashleen. Good to see you this morning. Marianne, thank you. Rosemary, thank you. And really appreciate it. Jack, thank you. So I want to begin. I saw somebody put into the chat that they had not seen the video at Rosemary, and I don't know, since you haven't seen it, I'm going to tell Rosemary the story, because I think this is really important, because it kind of sets up what we know about creativity. And it all begins with this guy whose name is George Land. And this was the 1960s. And George Land worked for NASA. If you remember, in the 1960s, nobody had ever gone into space. Nobody had gone to the moon. And President Kennedy said at the very beginning, we will go to the moon in this decade. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And George Land was the scientist who had to hire the people who were going to figure out how to go to the moon, not just go to the moon, land on the moon, and then take off again. Well, nobody had ever gone there to begin with, much less landed on it, much less tried to take off the second time. This was completely unknown. Well, George Land knew that he couldn't just hire the smartest guys. He couldn't just go get the smartest scientists. He couldn't go get the students with the best GPAs, as most of our students believe. All I got to do is be smart. All I got to do is get good grades. But George Land knew that he needed not just the smart people, but the people who could think differently. Well, how's he going to find it? Well, George Land decided that he was going to give a test to everyone who applied for this job. And George Land gave them the test, but he also gave all these the tests he gave the scientists, he gave the same test to a whole bunch of 5-year-olds. Now, those 5-year-olds, 1,600 of them, scored at a 98% genius level. 5-year-olds, 98% genius level. George Land was amazed. He decided he was going to wait 5 years till these children were 10, go to the same 1,600, give them the same test, and they scored at a 30% genius level. Well, that shocked him again. How did they lose so much of their creative genius in just 5 years? So he did it again when they were 15. And at 15, they scored at a 12% genius level. What George Land knew was that adults, all of the scientists he was looking at, and adults to this day score in the 2% genius level. So what we know and what is true today is that creativity is not inherited, it is not learned. Creativity is unlearned. We are creative when we are born, and the act of living teaches it out of us, removes it from us. We become less and less creative as we grow older. So why is this? It begins with the first thing that we do. You all know it. You've all seen it. You don't remember it, but you all did it. Somebody would pick you up and they'd be wearing a nice necklace and you'd reach for it because you wonder, oh, I want to see that. I want to touch that. And then what do? Well, they want to put it in their mouths, right? Babies want full sensory. I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to taste it. I want to see what it does. And what's the first thing we say to babies? No. When you finally learn to crawl and you want to explore and you see something and you want to touch it, the first thing you hear is no, right? This goes on throughout much of our early lives. We want to explore, we want to touch, we want to see. And when we learn to talk, the first thing we want to do is we want to question. Questioning becomes our mode. What's that? Who's that? Can I touch that? What is that about? How do I see that? So touching things, asking about things, and what we hear is no, don't, stop, get down. That's not yours. Don't play with that. Use your inside voice. No, it's not time for that because I said so, because it'll ruin your dinner. And then you go to school, the teacher says, sit down. No, it's not time for that. No, we're not playing with that. No, you can't go there. No, that's his. And then the friends start in. Nobody likes that. Nobody plays with that. Nobody thinks that's cool anymore. Nobody's watching that show. Nobody's listening to that music. You're not going out with them, are they? No, but they're not the cool kids, right? What we learn gives us this, what we call internal voice of judgment. Our internal voice of judgment, our VOJ, is what removes our creativity from us. So I teach creativity. It's the only thing I teach. I started as a marketing professor, and the business school realized that what we have are a whole bunch of people who are afraid to be creative. If they're afraid to be creative, what does our future look like? Our future looks like people who want to go in, punch a time clock, be told exactly what to do. And why do they want to be told exactly what to do? Well, because that's how school was. It's what's known as the Ford model factory of education. You come in, sit down. We teach compliance. We don't teach empowerment. So how do we teach children, students, adults to be creative? Because it's important, because that's the future. Because the only way to predict the future is to make it, is to imagine it. And that's what I am sharing with our next generation, is how to get that childlike mindset back. I am licensed to do this. This is my creative license. There it is. I am living in that state of perpetual childlike curiosity. This is actually my business card. My business card is, and I'll show this to you in real time. That's my business card. When I go work, and it's just like a credit card. It actually costs about $1 a piece to do this. And the printing company charges me nothing, zero. I said, how much do I owe you? They said, no, we made these for you for free. We have shown so many companies what we made for you, and we've written so much business because of this card. We're going to give them to you free. On the back side, looks like a credit card. I keep all of my ideas on the metallic strip. So whenever I run out of ideas, I just zip zop, put it on there. You'll see down here that I am an idea donor. Okay. And this is how I do my business. I run a creative consultancy called Blind Squirrels. For those of you not familiar with the term, a blind squirrel will find an acorn every once in a while, and we became known as the Blind Squirrels. Let me stop there for a moment and ask you how you're doing and what questions you have so far. I see lots of VOJs. I see those voices. Oh, Angela and Ernst. Angela, go for it. Speak to me.
I'm just so taken up by what you are talking about. Absolutely. Because, you know, when I think about my own children at school, when my son was looking at the bird and the teacher said, what are you looking at? And she said, stop looking at the bird and focus on what you're doing. I just thought schools are not for children.
Exactly. Exactly. I had a wonderful conversation yesterday.
Living to 45866. Do it.
Thank you. I had a great conversation yesterday with a professor from the University of Auckland. And I asked him what if he remembered a particularly creative time in school. And he talked about Sister Aloysius from when he was 5 years old. This is a full-grown, tenured adult remembering a creative time when he was 5. He said, we went into this preschool, this kindergarten, this nursery school, and she sent us out into the field behind the school and said, find something that intrigues you. Find something that fascinates you. Find something you're curious about. And they said they went out and they found all these treasures. And he knows now that it was just a leaf or a bottle top or a rock or half a worm. He said always finding half a worm was better than finding a full worm. And you would run up to Sister Aloysius and say, look at this treasure that I found. And she would look at them and she would say, I wonder how it got there. And the students would say, I wonder too. And this is building what I believe is the most critical and the very first of the creative mindsets that we're going to talk about. And that is curiosity. The curious mindset, the desire to ask questions, the desire to wonder, the desire to go out and just see the world as a place of abundance and connect with it. One of the things I'm fascinated with, and this is very personal, is body ink, tattoos. And when I go to a restaurant and my waitress or my waiter has body ink, something on their hands, something that I can see, before I'll order, I ask them their story. Please tell me about that. If you're going to put body ink on, it tells me it's very meaningful to you, and I want to connect with you in a deeper way. It's a conversation starter. It's something that I learned. The most fascinating body ink wrapped around this woman's wrist, and it was just a bunch of lines. And I said, tell me about your ink. And she said, I was going for my degree, and I was very nervous. And my mother called me, and she left a message on my answering machine. And she said, you've got this. I know you can do this. I believe in you, Julie. You can make this happen. And she said, short time late, she said, I graduated. I was so proud of myself. And shortly thereafter, my mother passed away. And I still had that recording on my answering machine. And so her tattoo is the voice print of her mother's message, her mother saying, I believe in you, forever on her wrist. What a powerful story. What a powerful memory that she carries with her. And now I carry that with me because of my curiosity. So these are things that if we encourage in our children, but as teachers, we need to encourage this in our students. We need to stop answering their questions. When a student comes up to me and says, what does this mean? I'll say to them, I really don't know, but that's an interesting question. I hope you'll share it with me when you find out. Please keep looking. You encourage them to go want to know. You encourage them to go find out. So once again, your curious mindsets, ask me anything, silence that voice of judgment. Next question. How many of you got to see the video? Did anybody see the video? Wow, I was afraid that you were all going to be here because they sent you the video. And so I was not going to tell you this story, but I'm going to tell you the story now. There's this little girl. You like this, Kosi? I told you I wanted to tell the story yesterday. There's this little girl, her parents called her Mayhem because she was always into everything. Her real name is Sydney. And the parents were watching the Academy Awards, the big movie show, and all of the movie stars are walking down the red carpet in their beautiful gowns, and all the paparazzi is taking pictures of them and waiting for the Academy Awards to begin. Well, Sydney gets down off the couch and she goes into the bathroom, but she comes back about 20 minutes later. And what she has done is she has taken several rolls of toilet paper and wrapped it around herself, fashioning what she imagined was a beautiful white evening gown flowing onto the floor. And she walked into the living room and she said to her parents, I'm ready for the red carpet. Well, most parents would say, you get in there and you clean up that, and that's a waste of toilet paper. But what Sydney's parents said was, well, if you're ready for the red carpet, then we need to get the paparazzi here. And they went and got their cameras, and Sydney pranced around the living room while her parents took photographs of her in her evening gown. Instead of shutting down her creativity, instead of silencing her, instead of empowering her voice of judgment, they empowered her creative spirit. And from that time on, Sydney, Mayhem, took anything she could find and turned it into wardrobe. She took newspaper from the morning. She found boxes. She took construction paper, crepe paper, and she made wardrobe. And by the time she was 5, Sydney had her own clothing line at American clothing manufacturer J. Crew called Fashions by Mayhem. And I found out that Mayhem lived close to me. And so I looked her up and I called her parents and I said, I would like Sydney to teach my class. I want this 5-year-old to teach my college students how to be creative. So what we had in my classroom was mayhem at Miami. And Sydney came to my class and taught. And she taught them how to turn garbage and scraps and into clothing. And my students spent a whole classroom making clothes and then had a fashion show with mayhem. And there she is, and all of my students in their paper and balloons and whatever they could find in their fashion show. And they had a blast. And not only that, they'll remember it. They will remember their day of fashion with mayhem. They'll tell their children about it. Maybe they'll even remember to raise their children with that mindset of curiosity. So, mayhem at Miami. I really do love the fact that she did that. If you remember where we started, which is that creativity goes down as you get older. So 98% creative genius, down to 32, down to adult. There are interestingly 2 other lines that follow this exact same trajectory. The number of questions we ask. A 5-year-old asks more than 65 questions a day. By the time we're a little bit older, we're down to 6, and those are, where's the bathroom and when do you need me to be there? The other thing is that we laugh much less. When we're kids, everything is funny. And as time goes on, so laughter and asking, that curiosity mindset, are very much part of creativity. So again, the perpetual childlike curiosity is how we need to run our lives. Again, next question. Oh, Rosemary, you were taking a picture. What can I put back up for you? Did you get what you needed?
It's fine. Thanks, Jim. I loved your business card, so I just had to catch it again.
Oh, good. If you're not happy with the picture, I will show it to you again. Okay. I really want you all
Thanks.
to take this with you. I want you to take anything you can with you and spread the word. I am the chief steward of World Creativity and Innovation Week. Today is the 2nd day. It began yesterday on Leonardo da Vinci's birthday. It was started 20 years ago in Canada by Marcy Siegel. I'm going to show the card again for Angela and anybody else who wants it. Here it is for you. Go for it. Everybody get your picture, and I'm going to turn it over for you. This is of course my phone number and my address, my email address, and you guys are all welcome to. That's I believe that's my WhatsApp, and my email address. So you can get in touch with me. And there's the backside. There's the backside of my company called Blind Squirrels Creative Group. And blind squirrels will always find a nut, but I decided to put a whole bunch of different kinds of nuts, partially because that is the next mindset that I wanted to talk about, is the divergent mindset. The divergent mindset, not just curiosity, but coming up with more than one right answer. Coming up with more than one right answer. And we have a tendency to only find one answer. Why is that? Well, because that's what they taught us in school. They taught us in school to come up with an answer. That's kind of what education is all about. It's about the person who knows everything standing up in front of everybody and telling them what they need to know. But we came to school as question marks. Remember, children ask more than 65 questions a day. And the teacher says, it's not time for questions. Give me your answer. But I want to know something. No, tell me the answer. Well, it might be, no, there is one right answer. We want to be question marks as children. They tell us to come up with answers. So the divergent mindset goes back to our childlike, what could this be? Think about it. What do you want for dinner? We usually have one answer. Want chicken. Well, wait a minute. Think about it. What are the possibilities for dinner? You know, where do you want to go? Let's go to the movies. Whatever we do. Usually we have our choices are very slim and very few. What if you didn't make a decision until you had come up with at least 20 different options? Try that with your children sometime. What do you want to do today? I want to go see. Okay, wait, that's a good first right answer. Now come up with 25 answers. Write them down. Wow. Then we begin to see the world in terms of possibility, in terms of abundance. Life becomes exciting with all of the possibilities that are out there. That's the creative world. Think about it. When we teach in our classrooms, it's all about sight and sound. It's all about, I'm going to talk to you, and here's my PowerPoint, right? Why do we do that? Well, because if I'm the sage on the stage, then I know what the children are doing. Then they're behaving. Then they're sitting up. Then they're paying attention. Then it's not loud. I take my class every year. I take the entire class from Ohio to San Francisco, California. 24 students for an entire week. Controlling the class? No, not really. Just engaging and empowering them to see the world differently, to see the world in possibility. Remember, I said that we teach with sight and sound. And I said that to a class, and a student said to me, what if you didn't? What if you didn't teach with sight and sound? I said, I'm up for the challenge. So for one day in my class, there was no sight and no sound. Here's what I did. I found a room in the very bottom of the university. So there were no windows, there was no light. And I went in there with black sheets and tape and all kinds of things, and anything that emitted light, even that little tiny dot on the projector, I covered that up. So there was zero light. And I told the students that they were not allowed to bring their phones into the room, and they were to all come to class with blindfolds. And they came into the room, and I lined them up, and I blindfolded them. And then while giving their instructions, I had a student assistant put things on each of the tables, and we guided the students into pairs, and we stood them, 2 students at each table with their blindfolds, and turned off the lights. And I said to them, in front of you, there's a box. Now, they didn't know who they were standing next to. All they knew is they were both blindfolded. And I said, what I want you to do as a team is decide what in the box is devoted to sight, or is devoted to smell, what is devoted to touch, and what is devoted to taste. There are 5 of each in the box. You two decide without making any noise. and without being able to see. Well, there was no light. So I said, go ahead, you can take your blindfolds off. And you took your blindfolds off, you still couldn't see anything. Well, the first thing you have to do is figure out who your partner is. And how are you going to do that? Because you don't want to hit them, and you don't want to inappropriately find out who it is. So they had to figure out, first of all, how to figure out who's standing next to me. Then they had to find the box. Who's going to take the lead? Open the box, reach in, little plastic baggies in there. Okay, and how do we, number one, figure out what's in there? How do I smell it? Do I taste it? Because if I put my hand in it and it's gross, then that's on my hand now. If I taste it and it's, anyway, what the students didn't know is that I had gotten military grade night vision goggles so I could see everything. And I was watching them experience life for the first time, how to communicate, how they would grab each other's hands and go, yes, or take the person's hand and put them to their nose or put them to their mouth, or somehow try to communicate. It was fascinating. And upon graduation, many students wrote to me and have since to say, that's the most memorable class I've ever taken. So we can design our classes different ways. So Prani, you're currently in class with your learners listening to me. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here with you. Can I advise you on how to nurture creativity and integrate it into our curriculum in a first world country? Wow, that's a great question. Creativity, and Prani, what is the age of your class? What is the age of your class? Can you, 12-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Remember, the 12-year-olds are on their way down. Number one, you have to make it safe for people to think differently. It has to be a place where everybody respects everybody else's process. And I want to talk about this, and this is why I wanted you all to ask questions, because it will take me in different directions. So Prani, here you go. In 1961, there was a guy who decided he wanted to come up with the definition of creativity. He said, we're studying creativity. It's doing all this research. I want to come up with the single definition. Well, he completely failed. But what he did was he said, every definition of creativity falls into one of four categories. They are called the 4 Ps of creativity. The first definition of creativity, and I want the students in Prani's class to think about this, is who am I as a creative person? Creative person. Okay? That's the first P. Who are you all as a creative person? Are you a person who is confident? Are you a person who stands back? Are you a person who's very analytical in your creativity? Are you a person who's very free in your creativity? Are you a person who dresses flamboyantly to show their creativity? Are you a person who doesn't like to stand out in your creativity? You know, creativity is in all of us. And in order to express your creativity, you don't have to be flamboyant and wear a hat to the side and show off. No. Creative person, whoever you are as a creative person, is perfect. Live that way. The second P is the creative process. There's a lot of things that we know about creativity in terms of how to make it work. There's actually two ways in a creative process to make it work. The first is called make it happen creativity. And there are lots of tools. All of these books are about different tools of creativity. Things like brainstorming is a creativity tool. That's a creativity process. Hi, everybody. Good to see you, Prani. Thank you for sharing your class. Wonderful. Good to see you all. The second way is let it happen. Because what we know is that creativity happens when we slow our brains down, right? Most of you find your best ideas in the shower or while on a run. There's science behind that. But oftentimes, because we play video games or because we, we don't have creative ideas because we're always filling our brains with something. Play, that will bring creativity. So number one, the creative person. Number two, the creative process. Number three is the creative product. And if you look around you, everything except that which is made in nature was a creative act. Every book, every chair, every table, everything on your walls, the carpet is all designed. Those are creative acts, the smallest creative act. But the fourth one, and this is where I wanted to get with Prani, is creative press, P-R-E-S-S. It's another word for the creative environment. And that's all about, do we foster creativity? Do we make room for creativity to happen? Do we allow there to be play? Do we encourage people to have ideas? Do we encourage people to ask questions? Do we encourage making mistakes? Prani's class is going to love this one. But one of the creative mindsets, one of the most important creative mindsets is risk, failure, and resilience. Risk, failure, and resilience. I'm going to go back to the mindsets here. Number one, teach your children to be curious. When my classes begin in college, the first thing I say is, what's on your mind? It can be about anything. It could be about the football game last night. It could be about what's going on in your personal life. It can be the weather. It could be something that you're wrestling with personally. I don't care. Let's be curious. Let's talk. Let's connect. The curious mindset is how I begin every class. Again, divergence is making people come up with lots of ideas. If we teach children that there's one right idea, then they'll never come up with anything new. So always encourage multiple ways to do things. When I give my students assignments, they say, how do you want it? How many pages? I don't have an answer. I want you to do the assignment and you turn it in the best way possible. And I don't care whether you turn it in as a website or a document or somebody who just printed her own magazine to turn in her latest. Had I asked them, told them what to turn in, she never would have thought of that. And no matter what they turn in, I grade it as if it's, I'm not grading the creativity of the work. I'm grading the process and I'm grading the content. So stop giving so many answers and let the divergent mindset, the opportunity, come up with lots of answers. The third one is the ambiguous mindset. The ambiguous mindset. And the ambiguous mindset is don't give them all the answers. Let them live their way into the answers. Prani, there is a wonderful book that I recommend that you get. It's called Weaving Creativity in Every Strand of Your Curriculum. Got that, Rosemary? Weaving creativity through every strand of your curriculum. And it talks about all of these mindsets, and it talks about ambiguity. And one of the great things, I'm going to do this, I hope none of my students are watching, is I'm going to put all the chairs away before class on Monday, so that when they come into the room, there is no place to sit down. And I'm going to show up late to class. And I wonder what they're going to do in that ambiguous situation, in that time where they don't know what to do. Are they going to go get the chairs out themselves? Are they going to sit on the floor? Are they going to sit on? I don't know what they're going to do. But the truth of the matter is, whatever their answer will be the right answer. I got that from this book. Because the world is ambiguous. If coronavirus taught us anything, it's that we don't know what's going to happen next. Right? So how do we prepare our young people? Right? So Prani, being in a first world, in a place where you don't have many all kinds of things, you're in a great place. Our children, our young people have way too much that take away from creativity. One of the worst things we have are our phones. Our phones. I was doing an exercise where they were going to, one of my students was going to try to make a car. And I found him sitting there looking at his phone. Well, my classroom is a no technology zone. You can't have your phone out. And I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I need to draw a car. I need to look to see what a car. You think a 5-year-old's going to take out the phone to find out how to draw a car? No. It's four circles and a box. That's a car. Right? Young people know that they can figure it out. Older people are afraid to make it not look like what they wanted it to look like. So the ambiguity, and then the ability to risk, fail, and find that you're resilient in that is the fourth mindset. The fourth mindset is let the children make mistakes. Let adults make mistakes. In my classroom, I give bonus for failure. I give a bonus for your mistakes. Now, I don't want anybody to fail a test. I don't want anybody to fail the class, but I don't want anybody to get it right the first time. Because if you get it right the first time, you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, right? Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll only get what you always got. So we want them pushing beyond their abilities. Think about what a kid does the first time they see a soccer ball. Probably football in your part of the world. They run up with excitement and they kick it, and it dribbles that far and in the wrong direction. And do they look up and do they say, I can't do this, I'm no good? No, they say, I want to do it again. And they kick it again and again. And pretty soon they're kicking it further and more in the right direction. As adults, you say, here, you want to kick this? You go, no, I'm not very good at that. I don't want to do that. There was a time for all of you. There was a time when everybody else was walking around. Everybody else was moving quickly, and you're laying there on the living room carpet watching the world go by, and you said, I want to stand up. I want to do that. And you crawl over, and you try to stand up, and you fell down. You crawl over a little bit further. You reach up on the table, and you pull yourself up on the table. You take a step, and you fall down. Then you crawl over to the chair, and you pull yourself up, and you fall down. There's not a single one of you who said, hey, Mom, this walking thing, I can't do it. I quit. I'm not good at it. Carry me for the rest of my life. Everything you have done, everything you do well, you do because you failed early, because you risked working harder, doing it more. We have to help our children. We have to help our young people make mistakes, because excellence is making mistakes until you stop making mistakes, working over and over and over again, doing it better, doing it bigger, doing it different, trying it different ways. There's an old story about Thomas Edison, who had hundreds of failed light bulb experiments. And they said, look at all the times you failed. And he said, no, I just found 200 ways to do something different. Those aren't failures. That's the path to success. We don't celebrate the failure, we celebrate the learning. When I have new teachers come in, to teach their classes, I tell them, the first time isn't going to go well. Give yourself the grace and celebrate the learning. We're coming close to time. I think some of you probably have to go back to work. I will stay here past time as long as Kosi lets me. I've talked a while. I'd like to open it up for your questions. Is there another question? Anybody? Rosemary, you have your
Hi,
hand.
Jim.
Yes.
Yep, thanks. One of the things that, it's more just a comment, but one of the things that I've found is like an ongoing challenge is if you want to make your classroom more active, more participatory, etc., you got to strip out some curriculum.
Yes, you do.
And we tend to be sort of hell bent on, I think it's that what I consider to be a negative model of, having a vessel that you're trying to cram everything into before you somehow certify it. And that I find the biggest challenge. I'm very lucky that I have some colleagues I work with who are, also think in these kind of ways. And I'm still trying to learn how to think more in this kind of way. But, who'll go along with the idea that we don't have to actually teach everything. We rather just teach a tiny bit, but in ways that they're actually learning, trying to flip that round a bit. So that's just a comment, because I found that really, really hard. And I still found it very hard, is to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do all of those sections.
I think I agree with you so totally. And I wrestle with that as well. So anybody who cares about education is going to wrestle with that. Here's part of my theory. If you're going to be a brain surgeon, I want you to cut into somebody in a classroom before you cut into me when I need it. Right? If you're going to be an accountant, I really want you to know accounting. But there are a lot of things which we know as the soft sciences, where the most important thing you need to learn is how to learn, is how to find out. I was having dinner with a former student, and this student is part of the head of a very major new company. And his responsibility is all the financial work. And he said, why didn't you have classes for us to learn all this financial stuff? And I said, would you have taken the class? He said, oh no, I didn't want to do financial stuff. I didn't want to learn that. I would not have taken the class. I said, so what good would it have done? And why is it that you're doing so well doing the financial stuff now? Well, what we learned was what we taught him was the love of learning, the mindset of what we call FIO, F-I-O, figure it out. If I don't tell you everything, you have to figure it out. I don't tell my students how to do their assignments. I don't give them page requirements. I don't give them format requirements. I expect them to FIO, right? When they come to me and say, I don't know how to do this, I said, what have you tried? I don't tell them how to do it, because what we want to hire for the future are thinkers. We want people to see something wrong and want to fix it. One of the most creative people that I have ever heard of, and you guys love that I keep doing this. Where'd it go? Here it is. Creative Confidence by David Kelly, one of the most creative people on the planet. Creative Confidence by David Kelly. And when something broke in David Kelly's house as a child, his parents did not go replace it. If the toaster broke, it wasn't, let's go get another one. David and his brother Tom had to try to fix it. They had to get their tools out and take the toaster apart and see if they could figure out why it was broken. If the washing machine broke, if the lawnmower broke, if the refrigerator broke, they had to tinker with it. They had to get inside of it. They had to figure it out. We don't have that mentality now, right? If something breaks, if you can't really hurt it more by trying to fix it, but what you teach is resilience. You teach curiosity. You teach ambiguity. You teach this how to do. Again, this is critical in our future. Jacques, I am looking at your question. I'm in the process of developing mindful photography workshop, and the 4 Ps are very appropriate, especially slowing down the brain for creativity to emerge. There is a mindful creativity photography opportunity for you that I don't know if you've seen this, but they brought in different photographers to do a photo session, and they brought them into this this room to take a picture. And when they got into the room, what they found was nothing in the room. There was nothing to photograph. It was just white walls and white floors, and they had to find something to photograph within. So it's up to them. It's up to them to figure out how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to figure out what you're going to take a picture of? It's all in your it's in your mindset. It's in how you go about it. And I have stalled long enough, and I hope that you all have a moment of time for me. just to show Jacques this real quick. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to whet your appetite. Here we go. What a cool experiment that is. And the photographs that they come up with are amazing. How often are we put in a situation where we just have to figure it out? We can't go to the boss and say, I can't do this. We can't go to the boss and say, you need to give me more. We have to figure it out. Hopefully, Jacques, that inspires you on your mindful photography opportunity. If you send me an email later on tonight, I will find the where I got that video. I have no idea where I got that video. I have to do some research, but I will send you the link to that site, because again, figuring it out, it's most important. All right, Ernst asked, does conformity stimulated at schools stifle creativity? Absolutely, absolutely. Angela, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Absolutely, conformity is, that's, and honestly, when you saw on that earlier thing that I did, where children all of a sudden become much less creative, conformity is the reason. Conformity is absolutely the reason. It's because I don't want to look different. Oh, my clothes are different and people make fun of me. I'll now dress like them. Oh, they don't like that show. They like this show. I'll watch that show because I want friends. This is the way everybody's wearing their hair. This is the type of shoes everybody's wearing. And we begin to not want to stand out. If you are going to be creative, you're going to stand out. If you're going to be creative, people are going to talk about you. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that. So creativity really is just in the way that you think. There are 4 levels of creativity. There are 4 levels of creativity. And Rosemary, I'm gonna ask you in just a minute, because this is, I think, the last thing I'm going to start. And then you have to tell me if there's anything I didn't finish. So, because I've started about, I did get all 4 P's: person, process, product, and press. And creative press is really critical. That's the creative environment. And we need to make that good. We need to make that empowering and encouraging. But there are 4 levels of creativity. The bottom level, which is known as mini C, the 4 levels are mini C, little c, pro C, and big C. So little creativity, or mini creativity, little creativity, pro creativity, and big creativity. Most of us don't think we're creative because we know what big C is. Big C is Steve Jobs. Big C is Nelson Mandela. Big C is Thomas Edison and the people whose names have become part of our world. Those are the big C. Oh, I'm not like them. But mini C is making dinner. Making dinner is a creative act, right? There's thought that goes into that. There are decisions that go into that. Writing an email is a creative act. You have created something that didn't exist before. Sending a text is a creative act. That's mini C creative. How do you make it little c creative? You put a little bit more time into it. You put a little bit more thought into it. You write the email, you put it away for 10 minutes. Then you come back and read it again and you'll make changes. Oh, I could say this better. I could move this around. I could have this before that. Oh, I could change my signature. I could have a different subject line. I could make my greeting different. I could put an image in it. That makes it little c creative. Thank you, Mylene. That makes it little c creative.
Thank you.
So yeah. Pro C is what I want you all to work for, is to be conscious of your creativity in all parts of your everyday lives. And that's what we like. That's what we want. Be conscious of it. Start working on those mindsets I shared with you. And it has been a pleasure joining you all this morning. I hope you've gotten things out of this. I hope you are taking things away. I hope we have an opportunity to do this again. Kosi, Nash, CJ, thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. I very much appreciate your time.
No, thank you, Dr. Friedman. Today's session was very insightful, and I think we're very privileged to have you providing insight into creativity. I really like the point of, as adults, the creativity goes down and we have this fear of failure that gets taught to us subconsciously throughout the years, where we don't even realize when we're older. And it's only the ones that prevail that look crazy today in their adult life. And I think we can just take a few notes from people that are those kind of risk takers and really held on to that inner child. And also for us that have now, we've realized and we're awakened, we can now go through the process of unlearning, which I think is a beautiful one, the way you've explained it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody remember, WCIW.org is World Creativity and Innovation Week. We're celebrating all week. This is the second day, so there are 5 more days after today. If you go to WCIW.org, you will see where people are celebrating around the world. We're now in 89 countries, and so thrilled to have a vibrant creative community in South Africa. You go on, here are the 89 countries who are celebrating with us. South Africa is right over here, and you click on this, you'll see the South African Creativity Ambassador, Dr. Ziska Fields, and you will see all of the things that are happening in South Africa to celebrate. Are you guys on here? I think you guys are on here somewhere, but look at all the things for, there we are for World Creativity and Innovation Week. And there's lots on this site that you can go anywhere in the world this week and celebrate with us.
No, that sounds awesome. I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to that. Just to let everyone know, the video and slides will be available on the UEL website, and we will be sending out a direct link this Wednesday on World Creativity and Innovation Day. please take notes of the upcoming webinar and please RSVP, secure your place. It's taking place on Tuesday, the 20th of April. It's titled Brute Force Disruptions or Building Up Another Bubble. I think that's going to be quite an interesting session. And you can also visit our website on www.ukznextendedlearning.com to RSVP. Otherwise, we hope that you enjoyed this session. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Have a good day, everyone.
My best to
Thank
Sarah.
you. Thanks, Jim. We will send her regards.
Thank you, Nash.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.